Are you going to be a lion or a sheep? The king of the jungle or another insignificant number in the herd? A leader or a follower?
Welcome to another episode of Plant Based Mafia. I am Danny Costanzo, your host and aka the Plant Father. I hope everyone got an opportunity to see my last video, which I believe was a really important one because it covered alleged heart healthy oils. That chapter was really detailed about how oil is not healthy for you. Olive oil is not healthy for you. Canola oil, vegetable oil. So whatever you do, try and leave those oils out of your diet. And I always like to really make it clear that this is not my knowledge. This is knowledge that I'm absorbing from people like Dr. Esselstyn, who wrote this book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. People like T. Colin Campbell, Dr. McDougall. They're just amazing people in this field right now that are doing unbelievable work, fantastic research work. The science, the data is there. That's a really interesting chapter because it goes over the Mediterranean diet and why everyone believed the Mediterranean diet was so great. And the Mediterranean diet is fantastic. It's a much better diet when you remove the oil, the olive oil, and a lot of the fats. So, excuse me, today we're gonna be reading chapter 11. It is called Kindred Spirits. So hopefully you're gonna watch this and you're gonna watch all my other videos. And if you have people in your life that are suffering from heart disease or any type of disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, cancer, this type of lifestyle is going to help immensely. It's the vegan, plant-based lifestyle. But remember, there's a lot of unhealthy vegans out there because you could be a vegan and eat almost no plants at all. So it doesn't mean that you are healthy. Lots of vegans are unhealthy. They eat a lot of fatty foods, lots of sugar, they eat a lot of processed vegan foods, heavy, high in salt and sodium. Doesn't mean that you're healthy. So this lifestyle requires a lot of discipline and requires you eating a lot of plant-based foods. Almost everything that you eat, tons of fruits, tons of greens, which are so important because eating and consuming those types of foods are what helps your endothelial wall. It strengthens it by producing nitric oxide. So that's really important to understand. And also, this lifestyle reduces your overall body inflammation and brings your cholesterol below 150. And those are two extremely important things to make yourself heart attack proof. So let's just jump right in. Chapter 11, Kindred Spirits. T. Colin Campbell, the Cornell University professor who directed and co-wrote the China study, observes that there are two worlds of medicine, two radically different visions of how to approach health. Our consensus favors drugs as the cure, the other foods. He explains Western medicine, for the most part, has chosen drugs. And he sees it, as he sees it, we got it wrong, and we definitely have. I agree, however, over the last couple of decades, there has been some movement in the West toward recognizing the importance of nutrition to health. There is a development to be welcomed. And I much admire all of the pioneers who have dared to stand up to the establishment. Their work has nourished my own, and although we may disagree on some fine points, for the most part we represent different paths of the same mountain. Colin Campbell himself is one of these pioneers. He went to Cornell planning to study how to make more and better milk and meat protein. Once there, however, he discovered through his own research and that of others that those products were disastrous to human health. And with that sort of intellectual honesty that is much too rare in this age, he quickly switched his focus to follow where the science led. The New York Times called his China study the Grand Prix of nutrition research. He is utterly fearless, candidly analyzing the backroom deals and politics of a paranoid animal food industry that will stop at nothing to maintain the dominance of its products in the American diet. And he has played what is almost certain to be a critical role in the future of how we eat. For years, he has taught America's foremost course in undergraduate nutrition, and his students will form the foundation of American nutrition in the 21st century. Nathan Pritikin is another example of those who have bravely bucked the nutrition establishment. I never met him, but I did read his books, and over the years, I have worked with some whom he trained. Pritikin was an engineer who had a lifelong interest in medicine and nutrition. In the course of his studies, he learned about the Tarahuma Indians of North Mexico, whose diet consisted almost entirely of complex carbohydrates and who suffered from almost no heart disease or cancer. Pritikin became convinced that these Indians set an example Americans should follow, devoted much of his life to spreading that message. The diet he promoted emphasized consumption of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and small amounts of meat, poultry, and fish. All told, a low-fat, high-fiber diet supplemented with healthy doses of aerobic exercise. Because Pritikin did not have a degree in medicine, his research was never fully accepted by the medical community. Even so, he never backed down and ably defended his viewpoint against his critics. Proof that he had been on the right course all along after his death in 1985 at the age of 69 of complications from experimental treatment for leukemia, the New England Journal of Medicine published the results of his autopsy, noting an absolutely remarkable absence of calcification and fatty deposits in Pritikin's coronary arteries. Those blood vessels, the medical examiner declared, were like those of a teenager. Hans Dial, who studied with Nathan Pritikin, has made healthier lifestyles his own lifelong cause. His coronary health improvement program, CHIP, trains entire communities in how to change their bad nutrition habits. Excuse me, I'm on a rotating table here. So it's actually quite fun. I have been one of CHIP's guest speakers on numerous occasions and have experienced firsthand the magical influence its founder can have in mobilizing large groups of people to take control of their own health. Yet another pioneer in the field is a physician named John McDougall, who for more than 30 years has been teaching about the critical importance of diet to health. I read his book, The McDougall Plan, in 1983, and it helped convince me that I was on the right track in my own growing belief in plant-based nutrition. Dr. McDougall became interested in the subject when he lived in Hawaii on the sugar plantation. As he tells the story, I met first, second, third, fourth generation Filipinos, Japanese, Chinese, and Koreans. He noticed that his patients from the first generation of immigrants who ate the worst diet according to traditional nutritional principles, virtually no dairy products or meat, always seemed trim and fit. They avoided heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, prostate cancer, and arthritis by and large. And they also lived to work and function fully in their 80s and sometimes 90s on a diet primarily of rice and vegetables. But as the succeeding generations became more westernized and learned to eat what the expert considered a well-balanced diet, they became fatter and sicker. This caused me to reevaluate everything I was taught previously about good nutrition, says Dr. McDougall. Ever since, he has been writing and teaching about the benefits of a primarily vegetarian, starch-based diet. Joel Furman, a board-certified family physician in New Jersey, has long been a strong advocate of plant-based nutrition. He has vigorously promoted his health message throughout this country and is the author of 2 excellent books, Eat to Live and Disease Proof Your Child. Of all the low-fat nutritional programs that have emerged over the past 20 years, perhaps the most similar to mine is that of Dean Ornish. I have known Dean Ornish for 20 years, and I have the greatest respect for his work. At my invitation, he has spoken at the Cleveland Clinic and at a nation conference on preventive cardiology. Among the wide variety of programs promoting cardiovascular health, his and mine are the only ones I am aware of that are based on peer-reviewed research that demonstrates arrest and reversal of heart disease. As you have read, my own 12-year study in 1985, I set a clear goal: achieving total cholesterol in my patients of less than 150 milligrams using a plant-based diet and cholesterol-lowering medication. The emphasis was on absolute adherence to my nutritional program, which I reinforced through my interviews with patients and my reviews of their diet diaries every 2 weeks for the first 5 years, every 4 weeks for the second 5 years, and every 12 weeks for the last 2 years of the study. All of the participants in my research were severely ill, with disease in all 3 arteries. Most had undergone a previous heart bypass operation or an angioplasty that eventually had failed. Several had failed these procedures twice, and several had been told by their cardiologists that there was nothing further to be done and that they must prepare for the inevitable progression of the disease. Following his earlier groundbreaking studies, Dr. Dean Ornish began another study in 1986. Like mine, his aim to reverse coronary artery disease through plant-based nutrition, but he did not specify cholesterol targets for his patients, and he did not use cholesterol-reducing medication. Like mine, Dr. Ornish's patients had 3-vessel coronary artery disease. And Dr. Ornish insisted that in addition to adopting a plant-based diet, his patients must use relaxation and meditation techniques and participate in a structured exercise program. Finally, Dr. Ornish had a control group of patients who had similar disease severity, but who followed a traditional program of cardiac care. My own research had convinced me that it was a plant-based nutrition rather than meditation or exercise that protected people in certain cultures from developing coronary artery disease. So I did not require anything of my patients apart from absolute commitment to eat according to the plan. I wanted them to focus absolutely on proper nutrition, and I worried that asking them to make too many changes in their lifestyle would interfere with that focus. Since the health benefits of relaxation and exercise are well documented, they are free of cost to meditate if they choose to. None did, and I encouraged them to exercise. Most chose walking, although there was an occasional jogger or swimmer. It is worth noting that 2 of my patients who had moderately disabling strokes before the study began did not exercise at all. Yet, like the others, they had excellent results that have lasted more than 20 years since the start of the study. Patients with coronary artery disease who cannot exercise must not despair. Full adherence to the nutrition program will protect them from progression of their disease. Just 1 year into the study, Dr. Ornish published his findings to date. During the first 12 months, his experimental patients had suffered less severe and less frequent attacks of angina than the members of the control group. Follow-up angiograms had showed reversal of coronary artery disease among the experimental group, and the benefit continued at the 5-year follow-up study. Additional PET scan imaging of his experimental patients at 5 years confirmed that 99% were able to halt or reverse the disease. There was a direct correlation between adherence to the program after 1 year and after 5 years. Dr. Ornish reported 25 new coronary events in his experimental patients at 5 years, which were 2.5 times fewer events than were identified in his control patients receiving traditional cardiac care. I have personally met some of Dr. Ornish's original patients who, like mine, were doing well 19 years later. The Ornish program has been expanded to multiple sites throughout the nation. I waited 5 years before publishing my first report on our results. Angina was diminished in all patients and had completely disappeared in several more. Follow-up angiograms had shown some stunning reversals of disease. Average total cholesterol was 137, and average LDL was 77. After 12 years, the end of the formal study, I could report that 17 of the 18 original patients had experienced no subsequent coronary event since the start of the research. One non-compliant patient had required bypass surgery, and more than 20 years later, as I noted in Chapter 6, these patients continued to flourish. To the best of my knowledge, the 12-year report on my patients represents the longest follow-up study in medical literature of arrest and reversal of coronary heart disease. The key, as both Dean Ornish's research and mine clearly show, is in persuading patients to grasp the total message and then comply fully with the program. Our approach differ in some significant ways, but the goal is the same: stopping heart disease in its track and even eradicating its effects. And what of future generations? There has been some significant progress on that front as well. It started with the publication in 1995 of Dr. Atwood's low-fat prescription for kids, a pediatrician's program of preventive nutrition. This wonderfully comprehensive book observed, but by the age of 12, 70% of American children have fatty deposits in their arteries, the precursors of heart disease. In his book, Dr. Charles Atwood, who died in 1988, destroyed many of the common myths about harmful effects of plant-based eating for children and adolescents. Among them, the notions that a child on a plant-based diet won't attain full growth or have enough energy, that he or she won't consume enough calcium, protein, and iron, and that controlling obesity and cholesterol can wait until the child is older. Not one of these premises is true, which is, just reading that is ridiculous. A longtime pediatrician with an extremely busy practice, Dr. Atwood felt an obligation to eliminate the barriers that prevent children from exposure to healthy, low-fat eating. Most significant, he took a very courageous step in recommending the elimination of dairy products, meat, fish, fowl, and oil from the pediatric diet recommendations accepted and endorsed by the late Benjamin Spock, who wrote the foreword for Atwood's book. Since the book was published, similar advice has proliferated in bookstores and on the internet, and today it does not seem so revolutionary to suggest that providing children with low-fat, plant-based nutrition will protect them from the ravages of heart disease and the common cancers in their adult years. But will children develop a taste for healthy eating? Antonio Demas answers that question with a resounding yes. During the 1990s, while pursuing her doctorate in nutrition at Cornell, Demas performed a controlled experiment in Trumansburg, New York. Her subjects were children from kindergarten through 4th grade who prepared, cooked, and consumed a plant-based diet. She was able to show that when introduced to the subject of nutrition in a hands-on learning process, children not only adopted healthy, low-fat diets, they did so with enormous enthusiasm. Her doctoral thesis based on that research, Food Education in the Elementary Classroom, won numerous awards and international attention. Demas now heads the Food Studies Institute, a nonprofit organization based in Trumansburg, which is devoted to the long-term health and education of children. In 2001, she published Food is Elementary, an elementary school curriculum that uses a multidisciplinary approach to teach children about food, nutrition, culture, and the arts. In addition, Demas's institute works with schools across the country to incorporate low-fat, high-fiber choices into school meal programs and to get parents involved into what their children are learning about nutrition. I take great pleasure in all of these developments, and yet, with all the research that demonstrates the wisdom and benefits of plant-based nutrition, its growing ranks of proponents still face a formidable array of opponents, from the titans of the animal food industry to the medical establishment itself. My colleague Dean Ornish sums up the dilemma faced by those of us who believe in this healthy way of eating. I don't understand why asking people to eat a well-balanced vegetarian diet is considered drastic, while it is medically conservative to cut people open. Well said. Well, that was chapter 11. Hopefully it was informative. And I do ask anyone who's watching, if you're watching chapter 11, go back and start from chapter 1. And we're up to just finished chapter 11, and our next episode will be chapter 12, and that's called Brave New World. This is an amazing book. Again, prevent and reverse heart disease. And the reason I'm doing this, I'm a film producer by trade. This is not something I'm looking to make money on. I have a website, plantbasedmafia.com. I'm all about educating. What I want to do is take the research and all the knowledge that is out there by men and women that are experts in this field, and I just want to put it out there in layman's terms. My own father has cardiovascular disease. I have friends' fathers that have cardiovascular disease. At the age of, 41, I believe, I was diagnosed with cardiovascular disease myself. Ironically, something I didn't even know because I didn't take care of myself, but by the time I was 8 or 9, I had extremely high cholesterol, above 300. And I had that cholesterol, that high cholesterol. I did nothing about it going into my early 40s. So that absolutely played an enormous role. If I would have got that under control in my early years, I'm sure I would not have developed cardiovascular disease. So the science is there, and I beg of you to please, please, please just read about it. It's really, really tough to help people change their nutritional philosophy. I've gotten into really serious debates about this. People just want to take medicine. They want to just listen to their doctor, put them on a medicine, put them on a pill, some sort of medicine, and call it a day. Because I believe changing your nutritional philosophy is a big undertaking, and it really hits at the core because, food is it's a kind of a celebrated medium for people to get together. Food is comfort. Food is delicious. I love food. I miss all sorts of food. But what I enjoy more is my health and the idea that I'm getting healthier. I've lost close to 100 pounds. I got another 100 to go. So this is my journey, and I'm sharing my journey with you. And if I could just help one person change their life, that's all I care about, So I'm not looking to get 1 trillion views on YouTube or to be some, global success in this particular field. I just want to take this information that I'm learning and convey it to a few others. And if that helps change their life, then maybe they'll go out and help and change a life or two, or maybe it will have a great domino effect within their life, with their family and their children, etc. So you could hear these broadcasts or these episodes also on SoundCloud. I also post them on Facebook. You could find me everywhere at Plant Based Mafia. So I beg of you to just get the book, read it, do your own research, learn about it. And even if you're not suffering from heart disease and you're a little overweight and your sugar level's a little high, man, plant-based nutrition is unbelievably powerful. It really is. And I have kind of these 3 non-negotiables, which are nutrition, exercise, and education. And really every morning when I wake up and I start with great nutrition, I prepare my meals, I go to the gym, and I come back and I read and I educate myself. And what I found are these kind of 3 amazing byproducts. And one is change of perspective, which then changed my attitude, which then changed my behavior. And I would really say that those 6 things really helped me kind of find a much better path in life. I'm happier, I'm more successful, I have greater relationships with friends and family. And I'm happier, which is really most important. So, hey, listen, thank you for tuning in, and peace. Let's get healthy together.
Are you going to be a lion or a sheep? The king of the jungle or another insignificant number in the herd? A leader or a follower?